the mid-year freakout tag. Thank you very much to Laura for tagging me in this, and to everyone else who has done it, or not, you're in for a ride. Let's go ahead and check how things are doing, and maybe paint my nails along the way. Welcome on back once again to the mid-year freakout tag. I was tagged, and because I've been traveling and doing a lot of things that are totally epic, awesome, and dreams come true, I'm a little behind. Better late than never. So let's go ahead and get the mid-year freakout tag taken care of. Questions are in the description box below, along with some people I've tagged, links I've given, including the amazing Laura. Thank you so much again for tagging me. So, question number 1. Did you set any writing goals at the beginning of the year? What were they? Are you on track? So, yes, I did go ahead as I'm shaking up my nail polish. I'm trying the new to me OPI Rapid Dry. For those of you who are not aware, I have a nice little collection that I do dare love. This is their All Dry and Mighty that I'm trying out, and I'm hoping it comes off as pretty when dried and applied as it hints. So, yes, I do dare have some goals that I went through this past year, and I'm kind of on track. I'm about a month behind, and yes, I've done this before, like this, because my eyes are bad. Anyway, I am about a month behind. You all know, if you're old friends around here, what happened around Mother's Day as far as losing a girl child of mine goes. So I took the time to grieve for the moo, and rightfully so. That put me behind. Now, mind you, a lot of the projects I'm publishing this year are going to be things I wrote or started writing about a year or more ago. And I like that I'm staying that kind of level of ahead of myself to a degree. I always have something I'm writing while I'm revising and editing and formatting something else to publish, put it that way. So, this is a little bit runnier than I was anticipating. Oh, goodness. I wonder if it's a batch issue, not a brand issue or a concept line issue. Anyhow, so what does that mean? So far I've gotten everything out for season 1, paperbacks. As far as I'm aware, they're all out everywhere I want them to be. That was part of Q1. The other part of Q1 was spent wrapping up soulbard.exe. I'm debating on whether or not I'm releasing another course to start in September. Heads up, possibly more on that in the future. I also went ahead and, pretty color, published The Winged Ones in June, one time. Pearl and Gold was possibly originally supposed to come out with The Winged Ones, so that came out a month behind. I did push back Frey's novella, 6 weeks but 3 years, from 8/8 to 9/9. So now you see where I've got that gap for sure. I'm feeling a little bit tiny behind. I'm not actually behind because I still will have 4 to 6 books out by the end of Q1 2026. I'm trying to, every year and a quarter, have somewhere between 4 to 6 books out, depending on what those books entail. Now, I do have Daughter Forever that is about to, probably later today actually, get scheduled for pre-order, and I'm debating on what book number 5 is going to be. I could do Slices and Sheets, like The Winged Ones. It actually was made to mirror The Winged Ones. It has spoilers, it has deep lore, it has future lore, but instead of following side characters like The Winged Ones does, it follows the 5 couples outside of season 1 and during season 1. Like, there's some scenes that didn't make it into X book for whatever reason. So it's a compilation of short stories from that regard, and it is quite enjoyable. I could do Vitalangica 1, which connects to a lot of the side quests because of Frey's novella, and also it would set me up to get books from season 2 out next year while still having some side quests to go with them, including, and not limited to, Vitalangica. So that's a discussion I'm going to have with my critique partners here soon. I adore my critique partners. They are being such a huge help right now. I know from beta reader feedback and editor feedback that I needed more ease of entry points into the story for the overall meta series. Question number 2, if not already covered, what are you currently working on, and how much writing have you done so far this year? Well, I've already told you about some of those items being finished. I just finished the 0 draft of book 2. It's kind of like the 0.5 draft. It's not exactly draft 1 yet. Of season 2, book 6 rather. And that's currently resting from my brain. And I've been working on a bonus project that Sam Wicker kind of got me to hint about in a previous episode of Listening to the Voices in Our Heads. I sat down again with Sam recently for another episode, which reminded me of that conversation, and hidden pen name is doing great things. I'm quite enjoying developing all that. Maybe more about that in the future. We'll see. Question number 3. Have you reached any milestones so far this year? Oh my goodness. I have bested my word count milestone for the first half of the year, if you include July as half of the year. I've sold more books this year in ebook and paperback form than I ever have. I'm on a book tour. I'm giving in-person conversations as a guest coach, not a teacher, in classrooms, sometimes on stages. I'm doing my first Ren Fair this year. I'm doing possibly my first Fairy Festival. I did go ahead and apply, so we shall see. Thank you so much for your patience. I apologize for that. Also gave time for my nail to dry a little bit while we waited for a sound to be fixed. So, for those of you wondering, yes, I'm filming this on a batch film day while streaming. Hello, all those who are streaming with me on a Monday. Good to see you. So, with that, what does my writing routine look like right now? It's going to change. I have a massive schedule change coming up that I don't want to talk about yet. I am doing really well, though, as far as, like, making sure I'm getting the words in at some point. I have come to realize that I am best to use the times when I'm hosting to be doing editing or writing in Word. It's just easier, or vlogging. Sometimes, though, when I'm batch vlogging and it's on a Monday, I will let Monday be for that, especially since I got my word count earlier this month. However, what I do like to go ahead and do is keep in mind that I once upon a time, you know what, I'm going to fix the camera. Hello. I just like to remind myself that once upon a time, I used to have a 1 hour and 15 minute one-way commute that I can get up for if need be. There's still slight muscle memory in my body for getting up at like somewhere between 4 and 6 a.m. from teaching for 15 years. And yes, there were some mornings where I was getting up at 4 a.m. to drive an hour, 15 hour and a half to go teach for a full day, come home, and then work part-time from home. I did that for most of my teaching career prior to 2020, and therefore it's kind of like a muscle memory, but I really don't want to use it unless I have to. I also, thanks to Tracy the Revised Writer, fellow Heart Breathings admin, check out our channel if you are not yet subscribed, because she's totally epic awesome. She used to do this 2-minute journaling session, and sometimes still does, prior to sprints to help people get in their head space of what they're committing to intentionally for a sprint. And I got in this habit, goodness, 2-3 years ago of saying at least X number of words. I have found in a 25-minute, half an hour time frame, I can comfortably, without flaring up my carpal tunnel, go ahead and produce at least 500 words. Now, mind you, I do know that I have a very high word count per minute because I trained in how to be an administrative assistant way back in 2005 to 2007, which required typing courses and secretarial shorthand and shortcuts on the keyboard to, to do job faster. Applied. So I've maintained like about 100 words plus on average per minute on any given testing day with 95-ish% or better accuracy. Editing me isn't rolling her eyes too much. Some days are better than others. And at the same time, that little knowledge of repetition, repeat, knowing that kind of like how when someone plays a sport, I always set up my layups this way in basketball, or in bowling, I know how to get into my strike zone, or I know how to make sure I get that conversion point tactic down in football can apply. And it very much just feels like that to me in my brain. It's a muscle that I can get into and just remind myself. I've written now 7 books because Pearl and Gold published, and there's more coming that I got there because of that. I can do this in a small step at a time mindset. Thank you to my mentors and coaches over the last couple years who put that in my brain. So next question. Have you encountered any good resources about writing? I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with Laura here. Heart Breathings, because I was admiring Sarah like as a teacher in the classroom, as a creative writing teacher. And if my students were like, I don't understand what you just explained, I'm like, okay, let's go to authortube. And the kids in my classes that would watch Sarah's videos for supplementary reasons to try and better understand what was being taught in the course, or maybe they were an advanced student and I let them do it on their project on their own, applied, because I taught the kids who could hardly read and write, and I also taught some creative writing kids who are now making way more money than me under pen names. Because one of them has 3 apparently now. Anyway, because of things that started off in my class. So I would also venture to say, if there's a book you have to read, it is a nonfiction academic argument book called Thank You for Arguing by J. Heinrichs. However, he uses pop culture to dissect how a lot of these Aristotelian, Socratesian argumentation mindsets can actually be used in your dialogue all the time to make it sound super realistic. So if he's dissecting The Simpsons with it, it is fair game for me to go ahead and include it as part of a recommended read. Number 6, one of my favorite numbers. If you write a playlist, if you were to use a playlist or write with a playlist, what songs would be on it? Who would you credit for it? And so on. So yeah, I have, if you go into my link tree and scroll down, you will see a super secret, not so secret page that connects back to my website, because funneling. So that way I can go ahead and show people this is the song per chapter that I kind of listened to on repeat most often while writing those books. Books 1 and 2, since they are free currently in ebook form, have those lists up if you want to go ahead and check it out. It is a little bit hidden, but it's kind of right in front of your face if you know where to look on Linktree for it, my lovelies and my soul bards. So, number 7, toughest moment related to your writing so far this year. Your girl wonders if she should be coaching or editing. I will be honest, I've done so much of both as a teacher, as an editor, separate from those jobs, because I was editing part-time for some entities while teaching, and all teachers are in some way a life coach, because as former students of mine in K-12 would say, we don't learn just about books and writing in Mrs. S's class, we also learn about life in Mrs. S's class, because yeah, I've learned more about how to adult from her than I have my parents. Yes, I've heard that from more than one student, so I will claim it. Thank you very much for telling me that, y'all, especially when evals to the principals. So definitely for me, I'm kind of taking stuff I was already doing in teaching and reapplying it elsewhere. Goddess above and below, all 4 of you I look up to. Whew. They're probably like, girl, when is your imp going to stop rearing its ugly head? I don't know. When is Frey going to stop hopping in and out of realms and portals and causing chaos? We can see what part of me is also part of Frey now, just a little bit. And I honestly think that this is kind of like a final stage of me going through healing from a part of my life that was more traumatic than I thought it could have ever been, unfortunately. Fortunately, unfortunately, question mark. Question number 8, then. Best memory related to your writing so far this year. Sci-Fi Valley Con, Altoona, Pennsylvania in June. I did my first 3-day weekend-long con, meaning that we started Friday night with actual guests and it ran all the way through till Sunday. Yeah, I sold more paperback books than I ever have at an event, for one, to the point I pretty much sold out of merch and had to buy more to get through the rest of my book tour. So, 2, I also had some amazing conversations with both new and actual readers. A couple of people tracked me down on that Saturday, and they were like, we have been wanting you to come closer to this side of PA for a reason. And I'm like, you know, my husband's from the area. I used to spend a lot of time around here, 15 years ago when I was in college. And I grew up south of here in Cumberland an hour. I kind of know the area because it's a shopping hub. And they're like, oh, we didn't know that you knew this area. And it's like just us nerding out about local things like Del Grosso's versus Lakemont Park. They're little local theme parks. And how one became better and the other slowly did not. And yet they're both iconic. And then, of course, that was just... It felt good to go back to my old stomping grounds and kind of see it in a new perspective. A couple of the popular kids from high school were actually there in cosplay from when I was in high school, meaning my popular kids in my graduating class. And they were like, I know you. And I'm like, well, you would know me as blah, 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 blah. And they're like, jaw floor. You never hardly spoke unless it was to say something to answer the teacher. Yeah, that's what I wanted you to think. So definitely it's weird, but nice seeing things come full circle, kind of almost like a graduation in and of its own. Then, of course, number 9, what's something important that you've learned and advice that you have for the future self. I think I already said that, didn't I, goddesses? My self-doubt, my inner self-critic is always going to be my worst enemy. Virgo sun, Pisces moon. Are you surprised? Boy, September is going to be interesting with that lunar eclipse. Anyway, so I wholeheartedly embrace the fact that I'm in my 30s and I'm still in a healing and learning season, and that's okay. When I look back at the generation that came before me, my mom and dad, if you told my parents at my age, roughly 3 years before I was born, in my mom's context, because she was 41 when she had me, almost, and if you would have told 38-year-old my mom that she was going to have a daughter in a couple years after having only 4 boys and 1 or 2 miscarriages, that she was going to have her miracle daughter that she prayed for forever, finally, and that kid was going to grow up to be an author because of the types of books in part that mom read around me, perhaps. My mom was a Harlequin romance fiend growing up. Doesn't make sense that I write what I write with the vampires now. A little bit. Mom can't stand the vampires and the immortals, but she did get me started. I will say that. She proved to me that anybody can be a solid reader. And I consider the fact that, my mother, both of my grandmothers, my aunts, a lot of my female cousins, most of them don't have a high school diploma. It's okay that I'm kind of scholarly, as my family keeps saying. You want to know why? I've already seen the ripple effect. The youngest of my biological nephews, if you did not know, I have 5 nephews who are biological to me, 1 who is not. The youngest of my 5 biological nephews, who's also my godson, graduated high school this year. Full honors. Better than his Aunt Jen, who was the honors kid. He walked with cords. He did choir like his Aunt Jen, and theater off and on most of his school career. And like his grandmother, he wants to be a cook or a baker. My mom, his grandmother. He wants to go to culinary school. And I bet you that kid has set himself up for a full ride. It's literally seeing my mom being a cook for a living without a high school diploma. And then him watch, because he was born when I started college, literally. He was born right when I graduated high school. And so he has that foundation of watching me go through college and seeing him marry the 2 generations together. You don't think people are watching, y'all. They're watching. They're watching. It matters. You've always mattered. So, what would you like to accomplish with your very long vlog at this point, writing during the second half of the year? I already said I have several novellas and short story compilations I want to get out. I have a couple of side quests to finish polishing up that'll come out next year, regardless of the order they come in, of course. I'm also writing book 7 in the mainline series, which means that by this time next year, I will be cruising towards 15 books on the market, so long as I sustain. And so long as I tell that imp, put on hiking boots. We've got some deep waters to get through because they're amazing. Accept the fact that your story is not for everybody. It may be off the wall. You may choose to overlook certain elements for the sake of saving space and time on the page, but ultimately you have this urge to write this thing for a reason. It doesn't matter what your inner imp says, and it doesn't matter what you, A, think other people are saying, or B, what they're actually saying about you. Your stories do matter. It's okay for you to doubt yourself. Do not ever give up. I'm going to go ahead and tag JD Robinson, Rachel D. Adams, and Mama Maggie Ward if you all have not done this already. And I have not listed you, or if I did list you, if you're welcome to do. Take care of yourself. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for including me as part of my journey and sitting at my cafeteria table just for a little bit. You fellow nerd. See you soon.